And we're live. Welcome to Monday's edition of Finish First Financially's live stream. Goran Radanovic here. Thanks for joining me. I didn't do a live stream on Thursday and Friday because I was busy with my business. And even today, I was busy with it, my vending machines and doing what I needed to do in order to progress the business. And that's just how it is. So sometimes that means that there aren't any live streams, but I try to do them Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Managed to make it today. We'll see how tomorrow goes. I'm sure I'll be able to do it. But today I wanted to discuss saving money because it's so important and it's so difficult for so many people. A lot of people who are in debt are always wondering, how do I get out of this mess? How do I stop living paycheck to paycheck? How do I actually feel like I'm progressing? I'm getting somewhere. I'm paying off this debt. I'm close to saving some money. Most people are just drowning and they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they really need help, even though some of them don't want to admit it. And what worked for me is that I wanted drastic change. And I knew in order to have let's say massive progress, quick progress, feel so that I feel that I'm on the path to paying off my debt and saving money, I adopted the minimalist lifestyle. That's what I chose for myself because I wanted to feel progress. I didn't want to delay this process. It was grueling enough as it is. I was homeless. I had no money saved up. I had a lot of debt, no income, and I was struggling a lot. And I wanted out of that mess ASAP. And what worked for me, what I decided to do was to adopt the minimalist lifestyle. Now, that simply means getting rid of all expenses that are not necessary for survival, and even the ones that are necessary for survival, reduce them as much as possible. So, a necessary expense for survival is food, but you can look for food that's might be cheaper than what you're currently used to. That's one of the things that you should look at. And you know, a person asks, well, how much more must I tighten up? You're asking me now to even cut back on certain foods that I'm eating. I'm saying that for me, the alternative was a variation. So instead of having, let's say, rump steak, I would have T-bone steak less often than what I had rump steak. That's an example. So that I reduce my expenses as much as possible. That way I've got more money to dedicate to debt. And then once I pay off all of my debt, then I have a lot more money to dedicate to savings because I no longer have these debt payments every single month. And that's exactly what happened. But what I understand is that adopting the minimalist lifestyle is difficult for most people. Adopting it means lowering your lifestyle significantly. You're going from being comfortable and sitting up here to becoming uncomfortable and being down here. And the minimalist lifestyle really requires you to make a drastic change that reduces your comfort, definitely. You're going to step out of your comfort zone. You're not going to have any takeouts any longer. You're not going to be buying new clothing. You're not even going to have that subscription to a video streaming service. And you're even going to get rid of your pet. That's what the minimalist lifestyle really requires. And most people are not okay with that. They don't want to feel that burden. And that's what it is. It feels like it's a burden. And I understand that. I understand that it's not easy to make that drastic change. For me, you might say, well, why do I need to get rid of my pet? I only spend like $100 or $200 on this pet. What's $100 or $200 difference going to make? And it's not, first of all, $100, $200 is just on one item. You take another $100 from another item and $100 from a third item, there's already $300. Now that's just three things. I'm sure if you were really to tighten up, you could easily save $1,000 every single month. So that's point number one. But what's even more important about cutting back on all of these unnecessary expenses is developing a mindset. Developing the mindset of a saver. You need to condition yourself to become a saver because that is the long-term solution. And that is exactly what I did. Yeah, I cut back on all of these unnecessary expenses and thereby I reduced my lifestyle and I became uncomfortable. And throughout that process, I conditioned myself to save. So now that even though I'm out of debt, I've got savings, I am still always looking for ways to save money. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed of going into supermarkets and asking them for a discount on items that aren't discounted. And that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but it's not, and they feel ashamed of it. They really feel ashamed of it. It's like, oh, how can you do that? You're such a cheapskate. And the thing is, the reason I'm not ashamed of it is because the supermarket is not ashamed of asking its ridiculous prices. They want to take money away from me. So why should I be ashamed of defending myself and trying to keep my money in my pocket and pay less than what they're asking? They have no shame in asking for their high prices. Why would I be ashamed to ask them to lower their prices, to pay less than what they're asking? It's like you do that when you go buy a car. You do that when you buy a house. Why is it different when you go to a shop and you see that eggs are now ridiculously expensive and it's fine for you to pay them? There's no shame in that. But there's shame in asking them to lower their ridiculous price. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I have no shame in asking for a discount. And that's because I really conditioned myself to save throughout this entire process. And you might say, well, no, I don't want to do that. And that's fine. That's up to you. But that's one of the things that really happens when you start conditioning yourself to become a saver. Now, since most people find that to be challenging, find that to be extremely difficult to make that drastic change, I designed the $100 challenge. So this challenge will first of all help you to save at least $100 every single month, which you might not think is a lot, but it's more than what most people have because they're living paycheck to paycheck. They literally have nothing at the end of the month, and they're actually going into negative because they're putting groceries and other items on their credit cards. They can't even afford to pay that cash. So $100 is more than what most American families have, believe it or not. So I'm going to read the article that I wrote on finishfirstfinancially.com called the My $100 Saving Challenge. On the website, you can also buy my book, From Homeless to Debtless with Savings. You can also book a consultation with me, one-on-one private, to help you. I look at your finances and restructure a plan for you to improve your financial situation by reducing your costs and obviously looking for ways to increase your income. So that's what happens during the consultations. And you can also read different blogs on various personal finance topics on finishfirstfinancially.com. And I think this article explains well what the $100 challenge is. But obviously, I'm going to, explain it even in more detail as we go along. So let's head over to finishfirstfinancially.com and see what the article says. I wrote it in April this year, 2024. So I said saving money is difficult, especially if you've conditioned yourself to spend. When I decided to turn my finances around and get out of debt, I wanted to do it as quickly as possible. For me, the solution was living the minimalist lifestyle. My only expenses were crucial for survival, and even those I reduced as much as possible. By reducing my expenses, I had more money to dedicate to debt. I paid off $40,000 in about 6 years. But that's not all. After paying off my debt, I carried on living the minimalist lifestyle and went on to accumulate $50,000. That's not a bad result for sacrificing my lifestyle for a few years. Now, living the minimalist lifestyle has become the norm for me. I've learned to live without the sports BMW I owned and the gadgets that did nothing but rob me of precious time. I understand that changing your lifestyle drastically is extremely difficult, and most people don't want to live the minimalist lifestyle. They want to be comfortable while accumulating savings. That's the reason I came up with the $100 saving challenge. All right. So, what is the $100 saving challenge? Here we go. The only consistent way to save money over a long period is to condition yourself to become a saver. My $100 saving challenge will put you on that path. Here is how it works. Compile a cash flow statement, which is actual cash flow figures. I refer to it as a cash flow statement because it's actual figures. These are the amounts that you've actually spent throughout the months, as opposed to a budget where you're forecasting, you're estimating, you don't really know. And I suggest gathering all the receipts for everything, whether it's parking tickets, whether it's your takeouts, clothing, whatever it is, that you gather every single expense. And as those receipts come in, you log them into your Excel spreadsheet or your app budget, whatever it is, so that you keep track of them. And the reason that I suggest you do it immediately that day is because if you do it at the end of the month, you're going to process a lot of receipts. You're going to be put off by the exercise. It's going to be really strenuous. It's going to be a pain to do, and you also might lose some receipts. So it's just best to process that receipt as it comes in, same day, and then it's over and done with. And then at the end of the month, you've got all of your figures that you've sorted for the month. All right, let's get back into the article. So I said, compile a cash flow statement, which is actual figures of all your entertainment expenses. These include shopping, clothing, and takeouts. The only way to know the actual figures is by keeping all the receipts for an entire month. Choose one entertainment expense. If you choose shopping and your monthly expense is $400, your goal will be to reduce it by $100 in the first month. Now, how can you be certain that you're not going to spend the $100 or even more? You should allocate cash in envelopes or jars for each expense. So when you receive your salary, it's so hot here today. Jeez. It's like 34 degrees, I think. So I'm sweating a bit. So once you receive your income, what you should do is withdraw it and then allocate money in envelopes or jars to each expense. So let's say your expense for your rent is $1,000. So you put $1,000 in that envelope, and you've got another envelope for food and so forth. And the reason that I found that to be valuable is because when I paid my rent for the first time in cash, this was probably like 6, 7, maybe even longer years into me being a tenant, that I decided to pay my rent with cash for the first time. And when that money parted my hand, I saw how much money was actually leaving. Yeah. When it's tangible, when it's visible, that money that's leaving your hand, I was completely shocked. I was like, I can't believe I've been doing this for years and years, just passing that money on to somebody else. If it was a mortgage and I was eventually going to pay off that place, yeah, then it kind of would have made more sense. But it was rent. I was just like giving it away every single month. If I don't pay I hadn't paid the rent next month, I was out. And that's what eventually happened. So that's one of the things. When you paid with cash and you see the money leaving your hand, it triggers certain, pushes a button inside of you that can cause some pain. That's what it did to me, and made me reconsider renting and everything else that came along with wasting money. That much I can tell you. Okay, let's get back into the article. So I said you should allocate cash in envelopes or jars for each expense. So now you've allocated, remember we said that your entertainment expense was $400. So you're going to put $400 in an envelope. Once the $300 runs out of the envelope jar for shopping, you have nothing left to spend. Yeah, sorry. So we said the original expense was $400, but you're going to reduce it by $100. And so the physical cash that's going to be in that envelope or jar is $300 because it was $400 in the past, but now you're going to save $100. So you're only allocating $300 to a specific expense, which I gave the example as shopping being the $300 expense. So once the $300 runs out of the envelope or jar for shopping, you have nothing left to spend. You just allocated $300. That's it. You can't touch the money from groceries or water and electricity's envelope. That's for water and electricity. That's not for shopping. So you have nothing left to spend. To ensure that you save the $100, you need to deposit the first $100 from your salary into a high yield savings account. So remember we said that, your original expense was $400, but you're only allocating $300 to the shopping envelope. And to make sure that you don't spend that $100, the first $100 that you receive, you're going to put into a high yield savings account. In the second month, you will reduce the shopping expense by another $100. So that's a total saving of $200 in the second month. The first $200 from your salary will go into a high yield savings account. So remember, we started off with $400. The first month, you put away $100 into a high yield savings account, you had $300 to spend. Now the second month, you're reducing it by another $100. So your savings is going to be $200, but your total expense now in the second month for shopping is going to be only $200 because it was originally $400. Putting $200 away into the high yield savings account, so now you've only got $200 to spend for the second month. Then in the third month, it's going to be another $100. So I say keep reducing the expense and increasing the deposit by $100 until the shopping expense is $0 and the monthly deposit is $400. So in the fourth month, you're not going to allocate anything to the shopping expense because you've reduced it every single month by $100 and you've been taking that money and you've been depositing into the savings account. So in the fourth month, the $400 is going into the high yield savings account and there is $0 to spend on shopping. Okay, so that was shopping. Now, takeouts is a major expense for many people. The average American spends about $500 monthly on takeouts, which I consider entertainment. You will do your health and savings a massive favor by buying healthy groceries. In most cases, your takeout bill is likely to be double your groceries. So what I mean by that is, let's say your bill is for takeouts is $200. So to have the same equivalent amount of groceries as you would for takeouts, you're going to spend half on groceries than what you would on takeouts. So let's say with $200 of takeouts, you get, as an example, 1 kilogram of meat. Whereas if you were to buy that at the supermarket, you could buy a kilogram of meat for $100, just as an example. So you're basically getting the same amount of food for half the price if you buy it as from a supermarket as your groceries, as opposed to takeouts, which is going to cost you double of your grocery bill. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's assume that you spend $500 on takeouts. in the first month, you have to reduce the takeout bill by $200. By reducing takeouts, you have to replace those meals with groceries. Since we assume that takeouts are double the price of groceries, by reducing takeouts with $100, your grocery bill will increase by $100. So remember, we're saying that you weren't spending money on groceries, you were having takeouts. But now, because you're reducing the takeout bill by $200, you need to replace that food with groceries. So even though you're decreasing the takeouts by $200, now you have to buy groceries with $100 to supplement that food that you're now no longer getting from the takeouts. You keep buying it from groceries. So your grocery bill has gone up by $100, but you're reducing the takeout bill by $200. So by reducing takeouts with $200, your grocery bill will increase by $100. The difference between the two, which is the $100, 200 minus 100 is 100, will go into a high yield savings account. So remember, we said $500 is what your takeout bill is, as an example. You're reducing it by $200, right? So now your takeout bill is $300, but you need to buy groceries to replace those takeouts for $100. So there's, you spend $300 on the takeouts plus the $100 on the groceries. That's $400, but you've decreased it from $500. So $500 minus $400 is $100 that's going into the high yield savings account. That's your savings. The savings is $100. Okay, so that will increase your grocery bill by another 100. Okay, so we're going back. Your grocery bill will increase by $100. The difference between the two is the $100 that will go into a high yield savings account. Okay, so that's the first month. In the second month, you reduce the takeout bill by another $200, which is a total reduction of $400 in the second month. That will increase your grocery bill by another $100. So your groceries will be an additional $200 in the second month. The difference, which is $200, will go into a high yield savings account. Okay, so let me explain that. Remember we said we started off with $500. First month we decreased the takeout bill by $200. And the second month we're decreasing by another $200. So that means in the second month, your takeout bill is actually $100. That's all that you've got to spend on takeouts in the second month is $100, because we decreased it by $200 in the first month and in the second month by $200. So that's a $400 reduction. Now you've only got $100 to spend on takeouts, but your grocery bill has increased by $200. $100 in the first month, $100 in the second month. So $200 is your grocery bill in the second month. Plus the $100 from the takeouts that you're allowed to spend is $300 together. Takeouts of $100 plus groceries of $200 is $300. But you started off with $500. So $500 minus $300 is $200. The $200 is going into your high yield savings account. Hope that makes sense. But check out the article on finishfirstfinancially.com or watch this again so that you can really grasp it. But I think that should be well understood. So to get the best results, obviously to get the best results, you should be living the minimalist lifestyle. But if you can't do that, then reduce 2 or more entertainment expenses in 1 month. The more expenses reduce in a month, the more you'll deposit in the high yield savings account. So remember, I've been doing what we've been discussing now this whole time is one expense every single month that you're reducing by every single month by $100. Now I was talking about, first of all, shopping, and then I went and, you're reducing shopping every single month by $100 until you eventually reach zero. Then you go into a second expense, which is takeouts, and then you reduce that every single month until it's zero. But you can combine all of those: shopping, takeouts, clothing, video streaming services, all in 1 month. So you're reducing all of those expenses by at least $100 a month, so that you get to zero as quickly as possible. So the sooner that you get to zero for all of those expenses, the more money you're going to have to dedicate to debt. So it's up to you to decide how quickly you reach zero for all the non-essential expenses. Completely up to you. So that's why I decided to do all of the expenses at the same time every single month to speed up the process. But if you're only comfortable doing one expense at a time, that's up to you. But just keep in mind that it's going to take you longer to save up money for debt, because that's what this whole thing is about. The more money you've got at the end of the month, the more money you can pay off your debt with. And the sooner you'll pay off your debt. Okay, so the more expenses you reduce in a month, the more you'll deposit in a high yield savings account. Besides saving money, you'll begin to condition yourself to become a saver by accepting this challenge. By eliminating your entertainment expenses, you'll eventually begin to live the minimalist lifestyle. So once you reduce one expense, and then you reduce another, and this forth, and eliminate this one, eliminate that one. Next thing you know, you've eliminated all of the entertainment expenses. That's how you get slowly creep into the minimalist lifestyle. After the entertainment expenses, you'll wonder how you can reduce more expenses so that you have even more money. That's when you look at getting rid of the fancy car, which you don't need, and the gadgets. The fewer expenses you have, the more of your income remains in your account. That's really what it is. After doing this challenge for a year, you will have saved a few $1,000s. That might not sound like much, but keep in mind that most Americans don't even have $1,000 saved. That's the scary statistic. And I'm also talking about high earners. 60% of six-figure earners are living paycheck to paycheck. They have no money saved at the end of the month, not even $1,000. So that just goes back to my point of, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep. So let's see how much you can keep. Show that to yourself. Remember, everything that I say is not financial or investment advice. This is purely for entertainment purposes. You do what you want. I'm just telling you what I did. I'm giving some suggestions. But it's up to you to decide what you want to do. So most Americans don't even have $1,000 saved. They're drowning in debt and living paycheck to paycheck. Ideally, you should be living the minimalist lifestyle, but my $100 saving challenge is the least action you should take to improve your finances so that you get out of debt and build savings. Okay, so that article is on finishfirstfinancially.com. Check it out there. Oh, jeez. Okay. So that's really the gist of it. Yeah, you're going to decide how quickly you're going to pay off your debt. And if you're saying to me, well, I don't have any money at the end of the month, I don't have more money to dedicate to debt, it's taking me a while. Well, I've just showed you a way. This is one way that you could save $100 a month at least. Second month will be $200. Third month it'll be $300. But do several expenses in 1 month. And then you'll have a couple of $100 that you're saving every single month. And that's going to compound in the second month, and so forth and so forth. So it's up to you to decide how quickly you want to pay off your debt. The more expenses that you reduce, the more expenses you eliminate, the more money you can dedicate to debt, and the quicker you will pay it off. It's simple as that. That's really what it is. And that's about it for today. I think, I always feel like I can talk more on this topic, and there always is more to say, but I think that you got the gist of it. Obviously, you can read the article on my blog. And if you need more help, obviously there's my book is available, which documents my entire journey of how I became homeless and paid off all of my debt and managed to save money. That's available on Amazon. It's available on finishfirstfinancially.com. The book is called From Homeless to Debtless with Savings. Otherwise, you can book a session with me also on the website for a personal session, and we will help you. We will definitely try to help you to improve your finances by getting out of debt quickly, saving money so that you can eventually get into investments. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you tomorrow, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye bye.